The Quake community is legendary for innovating the WASD control scheme, which was adopted by the gaming industry. The original layout should need no explanation. In Quake Champions, the crouch key is doubled between its original location on the C key as well as the control key where it is on most games today. Additionally, the ability key is assigned to the standard F key. One of the first community requested changes implemented into the game was moving rockets, lightning gun, and railgun to Q, E, and R respectively. With these changes, this makes the default Quake Champions button layout. But let's review some common changes that many players make from here. Paramount is the weapon next in previous on the mouse wheel. Generally, it's unadvised to use these functions because weapon binds will always be faster. But that's not to say you shouldn't use the mouse wheel. It's popular to move weapon binds for lightning gun and railgun to mouse wheel up and wheel down. This gives the player immediate access to these weapons without interrupting movement. Additionally, because these weapons make noise when drawn, having them bound to such a convenient location provides a distinct advantage. Seriously, you can ignore everything else in this video, but using discrete weapon binds on your mouse wheel is pretty essential for playing at your maximum potential. Moving on, most mice have at least a couple thumb buttons that players like binding weapons and abilities on, as well as don't forget that keys E and R are now available for you to bind weapons to for closer access. Looking back at the mouse wheel, you'll find some may bind jump here to turbo the input for bunny hopping in source games like Half-Life and Counter-Strike, but it's unnecessary in Quake as simply holding jump will buffer the input. Similar to this, you'll find players who like binding forward to the mouse wheel as well. This is done so the player can turbo the input for Unreal Tournament style dodging, which Clutch can make use of in Quake Champions. Another alternative Quake players like to employ is swapping jump to mouse 2. This is done to aid simultaneous inputs of jump and fire for rocket jumping. More unusual, but you'll find some players who will move the fire key off the mouse and onto the keyboard. This is done to remove accidental mouse movements when pressing fire. Considering crouch, control is already a great place for crouch sliding while using your pinky, but some players may choose to move this to another key like caps lock for comfort. Others may find the original location on C ideal, as it may be pressed with your thumb depending on your keyboard and hand position. With this same idea, some players elect to bind weapons to C, V, or Alt so they can use their thumb to select those weapons while not impacting their movement. Next, I'll mention that all of these options available for WASD are also available bumping everything over to ESDF, which places the player's hand on the home row and makes a few extra keys available to the pinky. A bit more extreme, a few players move everything over to IJKL, again opening up more keys for auxiliary functions and maximizing the player's mousing area. To conclude, let's review a config famously used by pro player Toxic. Unusually, this config places step forward and step backwards on mouse 1 and 2. However, consider that originally FPS games were controlled by using step forward and step backward on the arrow keys along with turn left and turn right. This keeps these functions on the same hand as that classic layout while extending the ability to turn in any direction. Additionally, many weapons and abilities may be accessed without interrupting movement, as well as pressing fire cannot lead to aiming errors. Although this config and a bit else we've reviewed here isn't essential to play the very best, I hope this leaves you with ideas on how you can improve your bindings as it's best for you, your style, and your equipment. Please leave me with your questions and feedback, especially if you use something not covered here. I'd love to hear about it. Hope to see you all in the arena, and praise Quake!